So, Tony, welcome. Described Israel during the conference at all. Notorious anti-Zionist says that Israel is Hitler's bastard offspring. But having learned and listened today to some of the horrors of what's been happening in Gaza, can anyone doubt what Israel is? It's not the only democracy in the Middle East. It's not a Jewish state in terms of what Jews used to stand for. It replicates everything that the enemies of Jewish people and others experienced. Israel claims to inherit the memory of the Holocaust, the Jews who died in the Holocaust. What I say is that Israel inherits the memory of those who killed the Jews and others in the Holocaust. That is the reality of Israel today. And I also say this, and I agree with Ilan Pappé in this, that we are not seeing the end of the beginning of Zionism. We are seeing the beginning of the end of Zionism. Zionism has to go. The state of Israel has to go. It was flawed from the start. It was based on ethnic cleansing, and now ethnic cleansing has turned to genocide and everything else. But let us not forget, whatever Israel does is backed and supported by our ruling class, by Joe Biden, by the American imperialists, by the last Tory government, and to an extent by Starmer and this government too. Nothing Israel does is on its own initiative. It is given free rein to intimidate, plunder, and massacre. Because let's remember, this is over 300 days into the Gaza massacre. And it wasn't a massacre caused by Holocaust trauma on October the 7th. It's caused by settler colonial trauma. The reaction of Israel to the revolts of the Palestinians, the correct and right breakout from Palestine, is typical of the reaction of settler colonials to slave revolts and other uprisings of oppressed people. So there is really nothing new in what Israel is doing today. But of course, it pretends, and Biden and the Americans and the British accept that it's a war against Hamas. Well, let's be clear. Hamas are probably the least affected in many ways by the Israeli bombardment because they're underground in the tunnels. Israel is deliberately exterminating the population and the infrastructure of civilization. Every single university, every single hospital has been attacked and destroyed or damaged. UNRWA schools have been bombed with people hiding in them. Last week, they even destroyed the reservoir in Rafah. Now, I don't know about this, but I suspect that Hamas didn't have their headquarters in the middle of a reservoir. So I think that gives some indication as to what Israel's intentions are, which is the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. And we must be clear, I welcome the fact Starmer's resumed funding for UNRWA. I welcome the fact that the objection at the International Criminal Court for the arrest warrants for Netanyahu have also been withdrawn. But they need to stop the arms now. There is absolutely no justification for supplying weapons of war for the perpetration of a genocide. And let us remember, this campaign started with Yoav Gallant on the 9th of October when he described the Palestinians as human animals. That was a phrase that was used by Heinrich Himmler in October the 4th, 1943 at Poznan, which is now Posen in Poland, when he described to senior SS officers the reasons why Jews had to be exterminated. And that is another measure of what is happening today. When I say that Israel is Hitler's bastard offspring, I am not using simply a flight of rhetoric. This is actually what is the case. And it doesn't surprise me at all that the only objector now at the International Court is Germany. You know, there isn't a Holocaust that has occurred that the German state has not smiled kindly on it. Let us not think they're expiating their guilt over the Holocaust. They're rationalizing what had happened, because if Israel, the so-called Jewish state, can perpetrate a Holocaust, maybe their own Holocausts weren't so bad as well. And I'm not just talking about World War II, but of course the Holocaust of Africans in Namibia, Southwest Africa, which was the first German Holocaust at the beginning of the last century. And you may not know this, but Eugen Fischer, the doctor in charge of Shark Island off Namibia, who experimented on Africans in what was also an extermination camp, went on to train the SS doctors in the Second World War, including Josef Mengele. He was the director of their Institute of Racial Anthropology at Frankfurt. So there are those very, very clear comparisons that can be made. And I say just one final thing, having listened to Pat, and that is we need to build in this country a united anti-fascist movement that will put the EDL, Tommy Robinson and the rest of them to flight. And I'm not talking about Stand Up to Racism, which is the SWP's recruiting vehicle. I'm talking about a genuine anti-fascist and anti-racist movement built from the bottom upwards and not from cosy deals with trade union bureaucrats. So once again, thank you very much for inviting me, and full power to you. And the Palestinians will not be defeated whatever happens in Gaza. On the contrary, we are seeing Israel in the throes of its last days. Thank you.